For nearly 3 decades, Hugh Jackman presented his marriage as one of the rare Hollywood love stories that seemed immune to the pressures of fame. In interviews, on red carpets, and across countless public appearances, he spoke about Deborra-Lee Furness with unwavering admiration, describing her as the foundation of his life and the person who made everything possible. The consistency of those declarations convinced many people that theirs was a relationship built on something deeper than celebrity image. That perception changed dramatically after their divorce was finalized in 2025, and reports quickly emerged suggesting that Hugh was planning a future with Broadway star Sutton Foster. What transformed public curiosity into intense scrutiny was not merely the end of the marriage, but the speed with which a new chapter appeared to begin. For almost 2 years following the couple's separation announcement in September 2023, Deborra-Lee remained remarkably quiet. She avoided public criticism, declined to fuel speculation, and largely allowed the story to unfold without her participation. Her silence became notable precisely because she had every opportunity to speak and chose not to. When she finally broke that silence, her words carried weight. In a statement released around the conclusion of the divorce process, she described the experience as a traumatic journey of betrayal and referred to the pain as a profound wound that cuts deep. The choice of language immediately drew attention because it stood in sharp contrast to the carefully crafted joint statement that had announced the separation nearly 2 years earlier. That earlier statement emphasized personal growth and evolving paths, using language common in celebrity breakups. Deborra-Lee's later remarks sounded far more personal and far more revealing. To understand why the word betrayal resonated so strongly, it is necessary to revisit how their story began. Long before Hugh Jackman became an international movie star, Deborra-Lee Furness had already established herself as a respected actress. She trained professionally, built a successful career in Australia, and earned recognition for her performances years before Hugh received his first major opportunity. When they met on the television series Corelli in the mid-1990s, she was the established lead while he was a newcomer embarking on his first significant acting role. Their connection developed quickly, but Deborra-Lee initially hesitated because she recognized the challenges they might face. She was older, more experienced, and aware that public opinion would focus heavily on their age difference. Hugh, however, was determined. He pursued the relationship with certainty, proposed within months, and married her in 1996. Over the following 27 years, they built a family together, adopted 2 children after experiencing difficulties with fertility and miscarriages, and created a life that appeared remarkably stable despite the extraordinary demands of Hugh's career. As his fame expanded through blockbuster films, Broadway productions, endorsements, and international recognition, Deborra-Lee often occupied a quieter role. She continued working in entertainment and devoted significant energy to advocacy for adoption reform, but much of the public narrative centered on Hugh's success. Behind that success was a family structure that required compromises, relocations, and countless decisions designed to support an increasingly global career. Those sacrifices rarely generated headlines because they occurred gradually over decades. Yet they formed part of the foundation that allowed Hugh to pursue opportunities around the world. The turning point many observers focus on now is the Broadway revival of The Music Man, which began rehearsals in 2022. Hugh starred opposite Sutton Foster, one of Broadway's most celebrated performers. The production required long hours, constant collaboration, and a level of professional intimacy that naturally develops between lead actors sharing a stage night after night. During the show's run, both performers frequently praised one another publicly. Sutton spoke warmly about their friendship and the routines they developed before performances. At the time, such comments appeared harmless. In retrospect, however, they have been examined through a very different lens. Reports published after the separation suggested that people connected to the production believed a close emotional bond had developed between the 2 stars. Whether that connection crossed any lines while Hugh was still married has remained a matter of speculation, but sources close to Deborra-Lee reportedly felt that an emotional shift had occurred long before the marriage officially ended. For someone who had spent nearly 3 decades with the same partner, that perceived shift may have mattered more than any debate about specific timelines. The sense that a spouse has emotionally turned elsewhere can be experienced as a betrayal regardless of when a new relationship becomes public. The chronology of events only intensified questions. In 2023, Hugh publicly celebrated his wedding anniversary and appeared alongside Deborra-Lee at major events, including the Met Gala. Months later, the separation was announced. In late 2024, Sutton Foster filed for divorce from her husband, and by early 2025 photographs and reports confirmed that she and Hugh were together. As the relationship became increasingly visible, media attention shifted from the end of one marriage to the beginning of another. Reports eventually suggested that wedding plans were already being discussed, and those reports inevitably reignited public interest in the circumstances surrounding the original breakup. Financial developments added another layer to the story. Before filing for divorce, Deborra-Lee reportedly secured sole ownership of a Manhattan property that had been part of their shared holdings. Observers interpreted the move as evidence of careful preparation rather than an impulsive reaction. The couple's combined wealth, accumulated during decades of success, was estimated in the hundreds of millions of dollars, making the legal and financial dimensions of the divorce substantial. Yet even amid discussions of assets and settlements, it was the emotional language used by Deborra-Lee that continued to attract the most attention. Her references to betrayal suggested that the greatest damage was not financial but personal. Reports that she had been keeping detailed notes throughout the separation period and was considering a memoir only fueled curiosity about her perspective. Such a project would represent the first opportunity for her to tell the story entirely in her own words rather than through statements, sources, or headlines. Whether she ultimately publishes a memoir remains uncertain, but the possibility alone has generated considerable interest because her account could provide context that has been missing from public discussions. Beyond the speculation and media coverage lies a simpler reality. For 27 years, Deborra-Lee Furness stood beside Hugh Jackman through every stage of his rise from aspiring actor to global celebrity. She endured public commentary about their age difference, supported his ambitions, helped build a family, and maintained a united front during countless years in the spotlight. Hugh, for his part, consistently expressed gratitude and affection, portraying their marriage as the most important relationship in his life. The tension between those long-standing declarations and the eventual outcome is what continues to fascinate people. It raises uncomfortable questions about how much anyone can truly know about a relationship from the outside. Public expressions of love may be sincere when spoken, yet still fail to predict what will happen years later. Relationships evolve, feelings change, and private realities often differ from public appearances. That does not necessarily mean every declaration was false, but it does mean that even the most convincing love story can contain struggles invisible to everyone except the people living it. The end of Hugh Jackman and Deborra-Lee Furness's marriage serves as a reminder that longevity alone does not guarantee permanence and that public admiration cannot preserve a relationship once deeper fractures emerge. If Deborra-Lee eventually chooses to share her full experience, many will undoubtedly read it in search of answers. Whether that would be viewed as an act of closure, accountability, or simply reclaiming ownership of her own story will depend on perspective. What seems clear, however, is that after years of remaining silent while others interpreted events on her behalf, she has reached a point where she is no longer willing to let her version remain unheard.